All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're tackling one of the most critical skills you'll need as a data apprentice, data classification. And specifically, we're going to demystify the S3 standard. Our goal? To get you feeling confident with any data set that comes your way. So let's do this. Everything we're about to talk about really boils down to this one simple but huge idea. Some of the data you'll work with is totally fine to share with pretty much anyone. But other data, well, if that stuff gets out, it can create massive, massive problems. I mean, look at the difference. On one hand, you've got things like daily order totals, super useful for the business, but not really sensitive. On the other hand, you have customer addresses and their payment details. Getting this wrong isn't just a whoops moment. It can lead to some serious legal and financial headaches. To make this all feel a bit more real, let's tell a story. I want you to imagine you just landed a new job as a data analyst. You're working at this cool, fictional food delivery app we're going to call Hungry Now. Okay, so it's your first week, and your manager hands you this enormous data set. It's got pretty much everything on all of your customers. The task is to find some game-changing insights. But wait, before you even think about writing a single piece of code or building one chart, what is the absolute first, most important question you need to ask yourself? The answer to that question is everything, and it all starts with a framework called the S3 standard. So this framework is basically your guide. It's what helps you figure out exactly what kind of data you're looking at, just how sensitive it is, and what the rules are for handling it. Now, here's the official definition. And I know it sounds a little formal, right? But let's break it down because there are two really key parts here. First, reasoned application. That just means you have a solid logical reason for why you classify data the way you do, no guessing. And second, explains where any flexibilities have been applied. This is the clever part. It's all about being smart with the data to make it useful without risking its safety. So how do we actually do this? Well, it all comes down to a really simple but powerful toolkit, a 4-level system for classifying data. Just think of them as 4 different buckets you can sort any piece of information into. First up, we've got the easiest one, public data. This is the stuff you could basically shout from the rooftops or post on a billboard. It's information that's meant to be seen by everyone, and if it gets out, well, that's the whole point. There's zero risk. So back at our app, Hungry Now, this would be stuff like the total number of orders we delivered yesterday, or maybe the average delivery time for different cities. Great for a press release, but it tells you absolutely nothing about a specific person. Next up is internal data. Now, this is the stuff that needs to stay within the company's 4 walls, so to speak. It's not necessarily super sensitive personal info, but it's our private operational data. You definitely wouldn't want a competitor getting their hands on it. For Hungry Now, you're looking at things like the performance stats for our delivery drivers, or maybe the operational numbers for a specific warehouse. It's for our eyes only, not something you'd be tweeting out. Okay, now we're cranking up the heat. With confidential or personal data, the stakes get way, way higher. This is where big-time regulations like GDPR come into play. We're talking about PII, personally identifiable information. Basically, any piece of data that can point a finger directly at one individual. Protecting this stuff isn't just a good idea, it's the law. At our app, this is all the obvious stuff, right? Customer names, their exact home addresses, their phone numbers, their emails. If this data gets breached, it's a huge violation of privacy. And right at the very top of the pyramid, we have restricted data. Think of this as the company's most sensitive secrets, the digital equivalent of the keys to the kingdom. A breach here would be absolutely catastrophic, so this data needs the tightest security imaginable. So at Hungry Now, we're not just talking about customer names anymore. We're talking about their credit card numbers, the logs that show when and where they logged in, or the secret sauce behind how we detect fraud. This is the stuff that needs maximum security protection, like heavy-duty encryption and super strict access controls. Okay, so we have our 4 levels: public, internal, confidential, and restricted. But how do you actually decide which bucket to put a new piece of data in? Well, the good news is you don't have to guess. There's a logical process you can follow every single time. You just walk through this decision tree. Start at the top. Step 1, does it have any PII or security info? If the answer is yes, boom, you're already in the confidential or restricted zone. If no, you go to step 2, would leaking it hurt the business? If yes, it's internal. And if you get a no on both of those, it's probably public. And here's the golden rule. Step 4, if you're ever unsure, always play it safe. Classify it at a higher level and go ask someone. Now, let's circle back to that second part of the S3 definition, the whole flexibility thing. This is where you go from just being a data handler to being a real data strategist. It's about cleverly transforming sensitive data so you can pull out those valuable insights without giving away any secrets. So picture this. The marketing team wants to know where your most active customers live. You got this table right here, but you absolutely cannot just email this to them. Look at it. It's packed with confidential PII, names, full addresses, phone numbers. Sharing this as is would be a massive data breach. So what do? We apply that flexibility. First, we spot the sensitive columns. Then, and this is the magic move, instead of the exact street address, we group the data by postcode district. This tells us the general area without revealing anyone's front door. And finally, we just get rid of the personal stuff like names and phone numbers entirely. And voila. Look at this. We've magically transformed risky, confidential data into safe, internal data. Marketing gets the insight they need, they can see which postcode districts are hotspots, and all the sensitive personal info is completely protected. That right there is a perfect example of reasoned flexibility in action. Okay, so this is all great in theory, but let's get down to what really matters. How do you prove you know how to do this in your portfolio? And for that big one, your endpoint assessment. You want to use powerful, specific I statements like these. Don't just say, I sorted data. Say, I classified datasets with justification. Explain how you used aggregation to minimize PII. You can even talk about applying role-based access control, which is just a fancy way of saying you made sure people could only see the data they were supposed to see. This is how you talk like a pro. And hey, if you're really aiming for that distinction grade, you can kick it up another notch. Talk about encryption, protecting data when it's just sitting on a server at rest, and when it's being sent over the network, in transit. Mentioning that you set short retention periods, how long you keep data before deleting it, is huge. And honestly, showing that you actually recorded your decisions, that shows a level of maturity that will really impress people. So let's wrap up with this. From this moment on, every time you get a new data set, I want your thinking to shift. Your first question shouldn't just be, what cool insights can I find? It has to be, how sensitive is this information and who really truly needs to see it? Getting that question right is the foundation for everything else you'll ever do with data.